Evening. See? I'm tired. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shayla.
I'm Marion.
I'm Alex. I'm Christy. I'm Taylor.
And we're going to talk to you about ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Does anybody know anybody who's been diagnosed with this? Can anybody tell me what it is in their own words?
In a way, it's just like difficulty focusing on like a task, and it's not just like that one task. It's like several different tasks, and the fact that like if somebody is shoveling papers over here, that shovel of papers, which won't bother anybody else, will end up like they just can't do it.
Okay, anybody else have anything to add? Or
someone that can't stay still, they always moving, they just hyperactive.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps, it prevents them from learning just from having that.
Okay. All of your definitions were correct. And kids who have ADHD act without thinking. They have trouble paying attention, noticing details, and have trouble sitting still, focusing, and it makes it very difficult to learn, like you just said. And it affects about 8 to 10% of all school-age children.
And the first video we're going to show you is a family whose son has ADHD, and it pretty much just displays how they handled it, which isn't necessarily the right way. So watch the video and then try to think of ways that they could have went about helping.
Julian was a very restless boy. He was so hyperactive, he couldn't even sit still for a meal. Always fidgeting, running around, touching this, tearing that. Don't even try to get him to sit still to do his homework. So how was he doing in school? Needless to say, he wasn't coping well, and his parents were at a loss as to how to deal with Julian.
Can't you just sit still in class? Not only your form teacher complained, the other teachers are saying you're causing trouble in class. Julian, your mommy is going to be very upset with you.
I know we have never laid our hands on Julian before, but we may need a different approach. Sam doesn't respond to our talking to him, no matter how firm we are with him. Julian! See, he's obviously not listening. He's not scared of us anymore. He has been losing his things. His work is very messy, and he doesn't seem to put in any effort. He is easily distracted, and the teacher said that he plays all the time. We have changed his school to give him a new environment, but nothing seems to change. Nothing seems to work. You know, every teacher who has taught him is saying the same thing. That Julian is a difficult student, and he is destructive in class. I dread being called up by the principal for another of those pep talk again.
But you know how I feel about kidding, right?
Maybe this is what he needs now. He needs to know what is right and what is wrong.
Try to talk to him one more time.
Despite being punished, Julian got into trouble at school again. He simply couldn't control his behavior. The punishments became so regular that his parents were at a loss as to how to deal with Julian. They were desperate for a solution. A few months later, Julian's parents received a call from the school counselor. She suggested that Julian be assessed by REACH, a community-based mental health service that works closely with schools, community agencies and family doctors to help students with emotional, behavioral and development.
So can anybody say what was wrong with the way they handled his behavior?
Instead of trying to see if there's anything wrong with the child, they decided to use force first.
So one of the positive things that we came up with having an ADHD child in your classroom is that it makes you as a teacher have to be prepared. You have to be prepared weeks in advance so that you can communicate with their caregiver into what the assignments are and how the class is going to see those assignments through in the classroom. You also have to have weeks in advance to be able to show the children visually and by their sight and feeling. You use all the senses to get a lesson through to these kids.
An example of the way ADHD is portrayed positively is in the quote, "I promise I'll be better at school and I'll pay attention more." It's portraying how a person with ADHD will respond in that situation in a positive way.
And another positive approach instead of the force like we saw in the video is behavioral management, which you pretty much, you could set them up on a schedule, teach them that schedule, reward their behavior, set up consequences for bad behaviors. And you could also, you have to be consistent with their punishment, with their rewards, with what it is they're supposed to do, and teach them the right from wrong instead of expecting them to stop.
The fourth positive portrayal, they can become successful in whatever they choose to do. Basically, this is saying, with children with ADHD who have been tested and have acknowledged their diagnosis, they know that they have to focus like 50% harder than most kids who don't have it. So with all that, they're putting their all into their work and putting like 120% into it. They can basically be successful in whatever they choose to do because they have acknowledged that they have a problem and they're pushing forward.
The last positive portrayal we have is that they are aware that they have a condition, but they don't think they're any different than all the other kids. Just like any other disorder that kids have. They see themselves all the same. And this is a video talking about how, it's a video of a kid, interview of a kid explaining how he feels that he has ADHD, who he doesn't think he's any different.
So it sort of feels like normal, but you don't know that you're not really normal. You just feel normal to yourself, but not really normal to other people.
Okay. And what does it feel like in your body when you haven't had any medicine or anything?
It feels like this hyper fire. It never goes out. They always push the water on it. It never goes out. It keeps burning. It's just like this campfire. It just keeps going.
Okay. How does your brain feel?
Weird. Just nothing. It's just regular. It
Okay.
feels regular.
And then what does it
Well,
feel?
at least regular to me.
Yeah. What does it feel like after you've had medicine in your body for an hour or two?
Same thing. It doesn't really feel different. It just changes the way other people feel about me. I don't feel any difference.
And how do people feel about you when you have no medicine?
They sort of get a little bit hyper with me. Well, if you're talking about my friend,
Yeah.
well, me and my friend, well, we sister, and they all try to calm me down. And their mom's like, I just get hyper sometimes.
And does it work when people try to help you calm down?
Not exactly.
Okay. What can people...
Dang, that's it. Yeah. Like he just, I mean, you know, as you see there, like he doesn't think he's any different. Like he knows that he has it, but you know, he's going to be the same either way, even if he doesn't think he's different. He's going to be the same exact way.
The first negative that we saw was that children who have ADHD, sometimes they get teased a lot in school, so therefore they isolate themselves, and we actually found a poem to go along with this. It's by a little girl named Lindsay who has ADHD, and it's about her isolating herself. It says, look up and down, look all around. I'm a suffocating bubble that can't be found by anyone else, if only there were me. I'm just a kid with ADHD. Is it my tears or just my mind that makes this bubble so hard to find? This colorful world only seen by me, seen by a child of ADHD. I fought so hard to pop this thing. I kick and scream and pray for wings, to fly away so I could be free. Free from the hell of ADHD. When I fought, it seemed so small. This bubble of mine, these closing walls. Why couldn't I be who I want to be, not just a child with ADHD? I am now beginning to accept who I am. I'm still a person with life and a plan. I'll show these doubters, yes, they will see that I'm not just a child of ADHD. And I also have a copy of this for you guys after we're done.
Children are often looked at as if they are not good enough and become discouraged because they have ADHD, but that's not true. Children with ADHD, they are as good as other students without it.
And children with ADHD are sometimes verbally abused, and they're not really taken too seriously. Like, there's been cases where teachers have become frustrated with a child with ADHD, and they're fussing and yelling, the child is crying, and they're still kind of breaking them down instead of trying to calm them down.
Fourth one is that they are very disorganized and messy. Okay. We all go through our day when you have like 100 things to do. You are cooking dinner, you're taking care of your kids. When you walk around and you're trying to get all these things done at once, are you going to clean up? Well, some people will. I'm not going to lie. Some people have OCD and stuff. They'll clean up right after. But anyway, if you are doing all these things at once, are you going to sit and you're trying to focus on 100 different things at once? Are you going to sit and clean up after everything you've done?
No. I usually like keep it like a nice stack in a general area, like this is my homework spot. So a nice stack of homework.
Yeah, but it's just in disarray in that stack, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is for children with ADHD. They are focusing on so many different things and they're getting distracted. So when they're getting distracted, they just drop whatever they're doing at that moment and go do something else. So that would be why they're disorganized and messy. It's not on purpose.
Oh, sorry. Kids with ADHD, they're normally disruptive and aggressive. Like the guy, like the little boy said, whenever he gets hyper and everything, he messes with his friends, trying to get his friend to be hyper with him. But, you know, and the teachers are trying to calm both of them down. But when they're trying to calm the kid with ADHD down, it's just going to make him want to be hyper even more. So.
We're going to watch a video on labeling normal kids with ADHD. take a look at the list I just written on the board. Can everybody see it? Because this marker is kind of...
You need more markers.
I'll just read it because it'll just take a lot more time to write it again. All right. The checklist for checking if a child has ADHD. Often on the go. Acts as if driven by a motor. Runs or climbs excessively and has difficulty playing quietly. Now, Erin, you work in a daycare. You work with 3-year-olds and up. How far? Well,
4 and 5 is what I was again. 4 and 5.
Going by this list, who would this describe?
Every single child.
Exactly. That's often a problem with the checklist because depending on their age, most children are going to act like they're hopped up on candy. It's just natural. So if you have kids in your class that you believe are ADHD, don't just go off and tell their parents, hey, I think your kid has ADHD. Take it a little bit slower. Refer them to, depending on where you work, where I work, you defer them to the family advocate. But I think if you work in the Bibb County system, you would refer it to the counselor. Don't just jump ahead. Don't skip steps. Don't just assume, oh, this kid is always jumping, running. He has ADHD.
Because that might just be only in your classroom.
Exactly.
And that's how, like, with a lot of kids these days, parents think that medication is the solution for everything. So they get their kid tested and they say, okay, well, my kid has ADHD, how can I fix this? And they give them prescription medicine, but most of the time, like, I had it and I tried to take the medicine and it did not work at all. Yeah. So I was like, Mom, I'm not going to take this. So, you know, and most of the time kids grow out of it, but, you know, medication is not the only solution to that. It's teaching your kids how to, you know, the proper ways to live and act.
Okay, so how does this affect the schools that we're in? We looked at a UK study, and 72% of the ADHD children were sent out of the room weekly, and 36 of them were sent to another room. So that's very disruptive for anybody that's on that hall with these types of children. And they also polled the children and found out that most of these children get really angry and very upset, and they get fed up with the school system, which means that there's a lot of people that are not reaching their full potential because they are just giving up on themselves because everybody else around them has given up on them.
How should teachers address the negative portrayals is they need to address the behavior to the students of what they do accept and what they don't accept in the classroom. And don't let the students walk all over the teachers because, you know, in the beginning of the year, teachers seem to let the kids slide by and do different different things, and as the year goes on, they were like, hey, well, maybe they shouldn't do that. So in the beginning, we need to establish the rules and don't let them walk all over you from the beginning. If there's long projects, they need to break them into smaller, different projects, because kids with ADHD, like Shayla said, they're everywhere. You know, they start one thing and they get distracted and want to do something different. So if they break them up, that will help the kids be able to focus in shorter amounts of time. And don't make it all desk work. If there's group assignments, make sure there's stations, and let the kids go to different stations, walk around, and actually do the work that's not at their desk. And timeouts should be enforced to kids only who are being aggressive and disruptive. Because otherwise, if the kids are just not doing their work and you put them in timeout, they're going to want to go in timeout and not do the work. So if so only put the kids in timeout if they're aggressive and disruptive.
Yes, thanks. Thank you. And turn this off for me, please, Taylor. Thank you, ADHD group.